The champagne tasted like liquid confidence as I tilted the flute back for the third time in 20 minutes. The hotel ballroom buzzed with the energy of successful people celebrating another quarterly win, and I felt like I belonged here among the marketing elite of downtown Chicago. "Elowen, you absolutely killed that presentation today," gushed Rebecca from accounting, her voice slightly slurred from the open bar. "I mean, the way you handled those investor questions. Pure genius." I smiled, soaking in the praise like a plant desperate for sunlight. This was what I lived for: recognition, validation, the feeling that I mattered in a world that often felt determined to make me invisible. "Thanks, Becca. I've been working on that pitch for months." I glanced around the ballroom, noting how the crystal chandeliers cast everything in a golden glow. "Where's Jonas? I thought he'd be here by now." "Your fiancé? Girl, forget about him tonight. This is your moment to shine." Marcus from Creative leaned into our conversation, his cologne mixing with the scent of expensive hors d'oeuvres. "You work too hard to spend your victory lap babysitting a boring accountant." The words stung because they echoed thoughts I'd been having for months. Jonas was reliable, steady, safe, all the things I'd thought I wanted when I said yes to his proposal 8 months ago. But lately, reliable felt more like predictable, and steady felt more like stagnant. My phone buzzed. A text from Jonas. "Running late. Client emergency. Proud of you. Love you." I showed the screen to my colleagues, who collectively groaned in sympathy. "See? This is exactly what I'm talking about," Marcus continued, signaling the bartender for another round. "You're 32, Elowen. You're beautiful, successful, and you're about to tie yourself down to someone who prioritizes spreadsheets over supporting his future wife." "It's not that simple," I protested weakly, though part of me agreed. "He's a good man. He loves me." "Love isn't enough if it's boring love," chimed in Sarah from Public Relations. "You need passion, excitement, someone who matches your energy." The alcohol made their words feel profound instead of intrusive. I found myself nodding along as they painted a picture of my relationship that felt uncomfortably accurate. When had Jonas and I last had a real conversation that didn't revolve around wedding planning or household logistics? When had he last looked at me the way he used to? "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ's voice boomed across the ballroom, "let's slow things down with some classic romance." The opening notes of an old love song filled the air, and couples began gravitating toward the makeshift dance floor. I watched them with a mixture of longing and cynicism, wondering if any of them felt the spark they'd started with, or if they were all just going through the motions. "Elowen," I turned at the sound of my name, and my heart did a little flip that had nothing to do with the champagne. Toby Rick stood behind me, looking exactly like the man who'd broken my heart 6 years ago, and somehow even more attractive for it. "Toby." His name came out as barely more than a whisper. "What are you doing here?" "I'm consulting for Henderson and Associates now, started last month." His smile was the same crooked grin that had made me weak in the knees during our 2-year relationship. I heard through the grapevine that the brilliant Elowen Mirth was behind tonight's success story. My colleagues exchanged knowing glances, and I felt heat rise to my cheeks. This was not how I'd imagined this night going. "Congratulations," Toby continued, his eyes never leaving mine. "You always said you'd conquer the marketing world. Looks like you're well on your way." "Thank you." I was acutely aware of my friends watching this interaction like it was premium entertainment. "How have you been?" "Good, really good. Though I have to say, I was sorry to hear about your engagement." He gestured toward my ring, which suddenly felt heavy on my finger. "Lucky guy." The way he said it suggested he thought Jonas was anything but lucky. There was something in his tone, a hint of the old chemistry maybe, or just the confidence of a man who knew the effect he'd always had on me. "Dance with me," he said suddenly, "for old time's sake." I should have said no. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. But the champagne and the validation from my colleagues and the way Toby was looking at me, like I was the only woman in the room combined into a perfect storm of poor judgment. "One dance," I heard myself say. My friends cheered as Toby led me onto the dance floor, and I felt like I was floating. His hand on my waist was familiar and electric, and when he pulled me close, I could smell the cologne he'd always worn. Something woodsy and masculine that Jonas would never think to choose. "You look incredible," he murmured near my ear as we swayed to the music. "Marriage is going to be good to you." "I'm not married yet," I replied, then immediately regretted how that sounded. Cold feet. "No, just, it's complicated." "It doesn't have to be." His thumb traced a small circle on my back, and I felt goosebumps rise on my arms. "You were always too smart, too ambitious, too alive to settle for simple." The song seemed to last forever and end too soon. When the music shifted back to something upbeat, we should have separated, should have returned to our respective groups. Instead, we lingered at the edge of the dance floor, talking about work and mutual friends and carefully avoiding the elephant in the room. The fact that we'd once talked about marriage ourselves before his commitment issues and my need for security had torn us apart. "I should get back to my colleagues," I said eventually, though I made no move to leave. "Should," he repeated with that crooked smile. "That's a word I remember you using a lot. You should be practical. You should choose stability. You should marry the accountant." "Jonas is a good man. I'm sure he is. But is good enough for you, Elowen? Is safe enough?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. Jonas, finally arriving. I let it go to voicemail, telling myself I'd call him back in a few minutes. "I need some air," I announced, surprising myself. The ballroom had grown warm and crowded, and I felt like I couldn't breathe properly. "I'll walk with you," Toby offered. I should have said no again, should have insisted on going alone or bringing one of my female colleagues. But the champagne had dulled my better judgment, and part of me, the part that felt invisible and taken for granted and tired of being practical, wanted to see where this conversation would lead. The hotel hallway was blissfully cool and quiet after the chaos of the ballroom. We walked slowly toward the bank of windows that overlooked the city, our footsteps muffled by thick carpeting. "Beautiful view," Toby commented, though he was looking at me instead of the Chicago skyline. "It really is." I leaned against the window, grateful for the cool glass against my warm skin. Sometimes I forget how pretty the city can be. "You know what I regret most about us?" he asked suddenly. I turned to face him, knowing I should shut down this line of conversation but unable to resist. "What?" "I regret that I was too stupid and scared to fight for you when it mattered. I regret letting you walk away, because I thought there would always be more time to figure things out." My heart was racing now, and not just from the alcohol. "Toby, I know you're engaged. I know I have no right to say this. But seeing you tonight, seeing how incredible you've become, I had to tell you. I had to let you know that losing you was the biggest mistake I ever made." He stepped closer, and I could see the sincerity in his eyes. This wasn't just a line or a game. He meant it. For a moment, I felt like the most desirable woman in the world. "I should go find Jonas," I whispered, but I didn't move. "Should," he said again, reaching up to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. "Always should with you." And then, somehow, we were kissing. I couldn't say who moved first. Maybe it was mutual. Maybe it was inevitable from the moment he'd asked me to dance. His lips were exactly as I remembered, and for a few seconds, I forgot about everything else. Forgot about Jonas waiting downstairs, forgot about my engagement ring, forgot about the security camera mounted discreetly in the corner of the hallway. When we broke apart, I was breathless and dizzy and immediately flooded with guilt. "Oh God," I breathed. We can't. Elowen, no, this was a mistake, a huge mistake." I backed away from him, my hand instinctively going to my lips. "I'm engaged, Toby. I'm getting married in 4 months." "Are you happy?" he asked quietly, Really, truly happy. I opened my mouth to say yes. Of course I was happy, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, tears pricked at my eyes, and I felt more confused than I had in years. I have to go, I managed, and practically ran back toward the ballroom. My colleagues were exactly where I'd left them, now significantly more intoxicated and animated in their gossip. They welcomed me back with cheers and questions about my romantic interlude, which I deflected with nervous laughter. It was nothing, I insisted, accepting another glass of champagne to steady my nerves. Just catching up with an old friend. An old friend who looks at you like that? Rebecca giggled. Girl, if my ex looked at me the way that man was looking at you. Stop it, I'm engaged. To a man who couldn't even be bothered to show up to your biggest night, Marcus pointed out. Meanwhile, mister, tall, dark and handsome is here, clearly still hung up on you, and you're pretending like there's no chemistry there. There's no chemistry, I lied. Please, we could feel the heat from across the room. Sarah pulled out her phone and started scrolling through photos. Oh my God, look at this one I got of you two dancing. You look like you're about to devour each other. She showed me the screen and my stomach dropped. The photo captured a moment when Toby had been whispering something in my ear, and my expression was pure bliss. We looked like lovers, not like a woman who was committed to someone else. Delete that, I said quickly. Are you kidding? This is going straight to Instagram. When your girl finally remembers what passion looks like. Sarah's fingers flew across her phone screen. Sarah, no, please don't post that. But it was too late. The photo was already live, tagged with the hotel location and several of our mutual friends. My phone immediately started buzzing with notifications. Relax, Elowen. It's just a dance photo. Your boring fiancé will get over it. I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a moment to collect myself and figure out how to handle this situation. In the mirror, I looked flushed and guilty, my lipstick slightly smudged from the kiss that my friends didn't even know about. My phone rang again. Jonas. Hey, I answered, trying to sound normal. Hi, beautiful. I'm so sorry I'm late. This client situation is a nightmare, but I'm finally here. Where are you? In the bathroom. I'll be right down. Great. I can't wait to hear about everything. I'm so proud of you, Elowen. I know how hard you worked for this. The genuine love and support in his voice made my guilt multiply tenfold. Jonas was a good man. He did love me, and I had just betrayed that love in the worst possible way. I love you too, I whispered, and meant it, even as I felt like the world's biggest hypocrite. When I returned to the ballroom, Jonas was waiting near the entrance, looking handsome in his navy suit and scanning the crowd for me. For a moment, I saw him the way I had when we first met. Kind eyes, gentle smile, the sort of steady presence that had felt like coming home after years of uncertainty. There's my brilliant fiancé, he said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like his familiar aftershave and felt like safety. Hi, I managed, hoping he couldn't feel how fast my heart was beating. You look beautiful. How are you feeling? Ready to celebrate? I forced a smile and let him lead me toward my colleagues, who greeted him with the polite enthusiasm they always showed when he joined our work events. Jonas tried to engage with their conversation about office politics and industry gossip, but I could see him struggling to keep up with their energy and inside jokes. So, Jonas, Marcus said with a slight smirk, what do you think of Elowen's old friend Toby showing up tonight? I felt the blood drain from my face, but Jonas just looked confused. Toby? Her ex-boyfriend, Rebecca clarified helpfully. They had quite the reunion on the dance floor. Very romantic. Jonas looked at me with raised eyebrows, and I scrambled for an explanation that wouldn't sound as bad as the truth. It was nothing. He's consulting for Henderson now, and we just caught up briefly. One dance, that's all. That's not all, Sarah giggled, pulling up the Instagram photo again. Look how cute they look together. She showed Jonas the phone, and I watched his expression change from confusion to something harder to read. In the photo, Toby and I did look intimate, lost in our own world. "Wow," Jonas said quietly. "That's quite a photo." "Right? I told her she should be a model. Look at that chemistry." I wanted to disappear into the floor. "It's just a photo, Jonas. It doesn't mean anything." "Of course not," he said, but his smile didn't reach his eyes anymore. "Where is this Toby now?" I glanced around the ballroom and spotted him near the bar, watching our group with interest. When our eyes met, he raised his glass in a small salute that made my stomach clench with anxiety. "Just networking, I think," I said weakly. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced conversation and mounting tension. Jonas was polite but distant, and I found myself drinking more than I should have in an attempt to calm my nerves. Every time I caught sight of Toby across the room, I felt a confusing mix of attraction and panic. By the time we left the hotel, I was unsteady on my feet, and Jonas was practically silent. The ride home in his sensible sedan was punctuated only by the soft jazz playing on the radio and the occasional direction from his GPS. "Did you have fun?" I asked as we pulled into our apartment complex parking garage. "Sure," he said, but his tone suggested otherwise. "Your colleagues seem to think very highly of you." "They're good people." He turned off the engine and sat for a moment without moving. "Elowen, can we talk tomorrow? When you're feeling better?" "Talk about what?" "About tonight, about that photo, about things." The way he said things made my chest tighten with dread. "There's nothing to talk about, Jonas. I had a few drinks and danced with an old friend, that's all." "Okay." He got out of the car and came around to help me, ever the gentleman. "Let's just get you upstairs." As we rode the elevator to our floor, I caught our reflection in the polished doors. We looked like strangers, me disheveled and guilty, him tired and disappointed. When had we stopped looking like a couple in love? In our apartment, Jonas helped me out of my heels and brought me a glass of water while I collapsed onto our couch. "Thank you," I murmured, suddenly feeling very small and very foolish. "Get some sleep," he said, kissing the top of my head with the same gentle affection he always showed. "We'll talk tomorrow." But as I lay in bed later, listening to Jonas breathing beside me, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. The kiss with Toby had lasted maybe 10 seconds, but it had cracked something fundamental in my carefully constructed life. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a little voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, that crack was exactly what I'd been looking for. I woke up with a pounding headache and a stomach full of dread. Sunlight streamed through our bedroom curtains, and the space beside me in bed was empty and cold. Jonas was already up, which wasn't unusual for a Saturday morning, but something felt different about the silence in our apartment. The events of the previous night came flooding back in painful detail. The champagne, the dance with Toby, the kiss in the hallway, the photo that Sarah had posted to Instagram. My phone sat on the nightstand, and I could see the notification count climbing steadily. 43 Instagram notifications, 27 Facebook notifications, 12 text messages. With trembling fingers, I opened Instagram first. Sarah's photo had been liked by dozens of our mutual friends and colleagues, with comments ranging from heart-eye emojis to more pointed observations about how happy I looked. Someone had even shared it to their story, with the caption, "When you see your friend living her best life." My stomach churned as I scrolled through the responses. This was exactly the kind of attention I didn't need right now. I padded to the kitchen in my pajamas, following the smell of coffee. Jonas stood at the counter, with his back to me, methodically preparing his usual Saturday morning breakfast. Everything about his posture screamed tension. "Morning," I said softly. "Good morning." He didn't turn around. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." I attempted a laugh that fell flat. Too much champagne. I poured myself coffee and added cream, trying to think of a way to address the elephant in the room without making things worse. Jonas, about last night. Let's not do this right now, Elowen. He finally turned to face me, and I was struck by how tired he looked. You're hungover. I'm trying to process things, and I don't think either of us is ready for a productive conversation. There's nothing to process. I had a few drinks and caught up with an old friend. That's literally all that happened. Is it? He held up his phone, showing me Sarah's Instagram photo. Because this looks like more than catching up to me. The photo was even worse in the harsh light of morning. Toby's hand was on my waist, my head was tilted toward his, and we were both smiling like we shared some intimate secret, which I supposed we had. It's just a photo, Jonas. Photos can be misleading. Can they? He set his phone down and leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. Because I've been looking at photos of us from the last few months, and you know what I noticed? You never look at me the way you're looking at him in this picture. The observation hit me like a slap. That's not true. When was the last time you looked genuinely happy to be with me, Elowen? Not content, not comfortable, but actually happy. I opened my mouth to protest, but the words wouldn't come. When was the last time? I couldn't remember, and that realization terrified me. I am happy with you, I said weakly. Are you? Because lately, it feels like you're just going through the motions. Like you're settling for me because I'm safe and reliable, not because you actually want to be with me. Where is this coming from? We're getting married in 4 months, Jonas. I said yes to your proposal. You said yes to my proposal after I asked you 3 times over 2 years, and even then, you took a week to think about it. I had forgotten that he'd noticed my hesitation. At the time, I'd convinced myself that I was just being practical, making sure I was ready for such a big step. But now, with Toby's kiss still fresh in my memory, I wondered if I'd been lying to myself. I wanted to be sure, I said. Marriage is a big decision. It is, and I'm starting to wonder if you're sure now, or if you're just afraid of disappointing people by calling it off. The accusation stung because it felt dangerously close to the truth. How many times had I justified our relationship by listing Jonas's good qualities rather than talking about how he made me feel? How many times had I told people we were perfect on paper instead of saying I was madly in love? I love you, I said, and I meant it. I did love Jonas. But as the words left my mouth, I realized there were different kinds of love, and I wasn't sure ours was the kind that could sustain a lifetime. I love you too, he replied quietly. But love isn't always enough, is it? Before I could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and sighed. I have to take this. Work emergency. He answered with his usual professional tone, and I listened to him discuss spreadsheets and budget projections while my world felt like it was falling apart. I retreated to our living room and curled up on the couch with my coffee, trying to make sense of my feelings. My phone continued buzzing with notifications, and I finally started responding to texts from friends who had seen the Instagram photo. Maya, my younger sister, had sent a series of increasingly concerned messages. Saw Sarah's post. Who is this guy? Elowen, call me. Seriously, what's going on? You look way too cozy with some random man. I typed back, just an old friend from college, nothing to worry about. Her response was immediate. Mum's freaking out. She saw it too. Says it doesn't look like nothing to her. Great. Now my family was involved. I could already imagine the phone calls and the questions and the well-meaning advice that would make everything more complicated. My phone rang. Mom. Hi, Mom. Elowen Marie Mirth, what in the world is going on? Maya showed me some photo from your work party, and I have to say, it doesn't look appropriate for a woman who's about to be married. It's just a photo, Mom. I was networking. Networking? Honey, I may be 58, but I know what networking looks like, and that wasn't it. You were practically draped all over that man. I was not draped. Does Jonas know about this? Because if I were him, I'd be asking some serious questions right about now. Jonas is fine with it, I lied. He trusts me. Well, he's a better person than I am, because if your father had photos like that floating around the internet, we'd be having words. I closed my eyes and tried to summon patience. Mum, I'm 32 years old. I can handle my own relationship. Can you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're sabotaging the best thing that ever happened to you. Jonas is a good man, Elowen. He's stable, he loves you, he wants to build a life with you. Don't throw that away for some fantasy about your past. It's not a fantasy. I started, then stopped. Was it a fantasy? The kiss with Toby had felt real enough, but what did it actually mean? He hadn't made any promises or declarations beyond admitting he regretted losing me. For all I knew, he was just caught up in the nostalgia of the moment. I have to go, Mum. Jonas and I are going to talk. Good. And, Elowen, think very carefully about what you want your life to look like in 10 years. Because the choices you make now will determine whether you're happy or full of regret. After she hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. Through the window, I could see other couples in our complex going about their Saturday routines, walking dogs, carrying groceries, looking comfortable and content with their ordinary lives. Was that what I wanted? Comfortable and content? Or was I looking for something more, something that made my heart race and my pulse quicken? Jonas finished his phone call and found me staring out the window. Everything okay? He asked. My mum saw the photo. She's concerned. She should be. He sat down beside me, but left space between us on the couch. Elowen, I need you to be completely honest with me. Is there something going on with you and this Toby guy? This was my chance to come clean, to tell him about the kiss and the confusion and the feelings I didn't know how to process. But looking at his earnest face, at the man who had never lied to me or hurt me or made me question my worth, I couldn't bring myself to destroy his trust. No, I said, there's nothing going on. But you have feelings for him. It wasn't a question, and I realized that Jonas knew me better than I'd given him credit for. He could see through my denials to the truth underneath. I don't know, I admitted. Seeing him again was confusing, but that doesn't mean I want to be with him. What do you want, Elowen? Really? I struggled to find words for the tangle of emotions in my chest. I want to feel excited about my life. I want to feel like I'm living, not just existing. I want passion and adventure and the feeling that anything could happen. And you don't feel that with me. The pain in his voice almost broke my heart. Jonas, it's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but I understand. I've always known I wasn't the most exciting guy in the world. I thought that was what you wanted after all the drama with your ex-boyfriends. It was what I wanted. It is what I want. I'm just confused right now. Because seeing him reminded you of what you gave up when you chose stability over excitement. I nodded, tears starting to fall. I don't know how to reconcile these feelings. I love you, I do. But when I was with Toby last night, I felt alive in a way I haven't felt in years. Jonas was quiet for a long time, and I could see him processing this information with the same methodical approach he brought to everything else. I think, he said finally, we need to take some time to figure out what we both really want, because I won't marry someone who's settling for me, and you shouldn't marry someone you're not excited about. What does that mean? It means maybe we should postpone the wedding. Maybe we should take a break and really think about whether we're right for each other. The suggestion should have filled me with relief, but instead it terrified me. A break felt like the beginning of the end, and despite my confusion about Toby, I wasn't ready to lose Jonas entirely. I don't want a break, I said quickly. I want to work through this together. Do you? Or do you just want to avoid making a decision? Before I could answer, his phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it and frowned. What is it? My brother Tom. He saw the photo too. Apparently it's making the rounds on social media. My stomach dropped. What did he say? Jonas showed me the text. Dude, who is this guy with Elowen? You okay? Great, I muttered. Now your whole family is going to think I'm cheating on you. Are you? The question hung in the air between us like a bomb waiting to explode. Technically, I hadn't cheated. One kiss didn't constitute an affair, but emotionally, I felt like I'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. No, I said, but the word felt hollow. Jonas studied my face for a long moment, then stood up. I'm going to stay at Tom's tonight. I think we both need some space to think. Jonas, please don't go. We can work through this. Can we? Because right now, it feels like you're more interested in protecting your image than in being honest about your feelings. He went to our bedroom and started packing a bag while I sat on the couch, paralyzed by indecision. Part of me wanted to run after him, to beg him to stay, and promise that I'd forget about Toby and focus on our relationship. But another part of me felt relieved that I'd have space to think without his hurt eyes watching my every move. I'll call you tomorrow, he said when he returned with his overnight bag. Maybe by then we'll both have more clarity about what we want. After he left, the apartment felt enormous and empty. I spent the rest of the day alternating between checking social media and trying to distract myself with Netflix. The Instagram photo continued gaining likes and comments, and I found myself obsessively reading into every emoji and reaction. Around dinner time, my phone rang with an unknown number. Hello? Elowen? It's Toby. My heart immediately started racing. How did you get my number? I have my ways. Listen, I've been thinking about last night, and I wanted to make sure you're okay. You seemed pretty shaken up when you left. I'm fine, I lied. It was just the alcohol. Was it? Because that didn't feel like alcohol to me. That felt like something we've both been thinking about for a long time. Toby, I can't do this. I'm engaged. I know you are, and I'm not trying to complicate your life. I just want you to know that if you ever decide you want something different, something more exciting, I'm here. My life is exciting enough, thank you. Is it? Because from what I remember, you used to dream about traveling the world, starting your own agency, taking risks. What happened to that woman? She grew up and got realistic about what life actually looks like. Or she got scared and chose the safe option. His words echoed my own thoughts so perfectly that I felt exposed, like he could see straight through my carefully constructed adult life to the restless dreamer underneath. I have to go, I said. Elowen, wait, just think about what I said, okay? Think about whether you're really happy or just comfortable, because you deserve more than comfortable. After he hung up, I sat in my empty apartment and tried to imagine my future. In one version, I married Jonas, we had a nice wedding, bought a house in the suburbs, had children, and lived a perfectly pleasant life. In the other version, I took a leap of faith, chose passion over security, and either found the adventure I'd always craved or crashed and burned spectacularly. Both options terrified me for completely different reasons. Sunday dinner at Romano's had been a family tradition for as long as I could remember. Every week my mother would reserve the large corner table, and we'd all gather to catch up on the week's events over too much bread and wine. Usually I looked forward to these dinners as a chance to decompress and connect with people who loved me unconditionally. Today I was dreading every minute of it. Jonas had texted that morning to say he wouldn't be joining us, claiming he needed more time to think. His absence would raise questions I wasn't prepared to answer, especially since the Instagram photo had apparently made its way through our extended social network like wildfire. I arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes late, hoping that everyone would already be settled and distracted by their meals. No such luck. The moment I approached our table, I could feel the tension crackling in the air. There she is, my mother announced with false brightness, our little social media star. My father looked up from his menu with a confused expression. Social media star? Oh, Dad doesn't know about the photo yet, Maya said with barely concealed glee. My sister had always enjoyed drama, especially when it didn't involve her directly. What photo? Dad asked, looking between us with growing concern. Mom pulled out her phone and showed him Sarah's Instagram post. I watched his face change from confusion to disappointment to something that looked uncomfortably like anger. Elowen Marie, what is the meaning of this? It's just a photo from my work party, Dad. I was networking. Networking? He adjusted his glasses and looked at the screen again. This doesn't look like networking to me. This looks like you're about to kiss this man. If only he knew how close to the truth that was. Where's Jonas? Mom asked, looking around as if he might materialize from thin air. Surely he has something to say about this. Jonas is processing. He needed some space to think. Space to think? Maya leaned forward with interest. What does that mean exactly? It means this is between Jonas and me, and it's really none of anyone else's business. It became our business when you posted it on the internet for everyone to see, Dad said sternly. Do you have any idea how this reflects on our family? On Jonas? On your relationship? I didn't post it. My colleague did. And you couldn't ask her to take it down? The truth was, I hadn't asked Sarah to remove the photo because part of me enjoyed the attention it was getting. The likes and comments made me feel desired and interesting in a way I hadn't felt in months. But I couldn't exactly admit that to my parents. It's not that big a deal, I said weakly. Not that big a deal. Mom's voice was getting louder, attracting attention from nearby tables. Elowen, you're getting married in 4 months. 4 months. Do you understand how this makes you look? Like someone who had a conversation with an old friend. Like someone who's having second thoughts about her engagement, Maya said bluntly. Because let's be honest, that's what this is really about, isn't it? The accuracy of her observation hit me like a physical blow. Maya had always been too perceptive for her own good, able to cut through pretense and get straight to the heart of things. I'm not having second thoughts, I protested. Really? Because you look happier in that photo with a random ex-boyfriend than you have in any photo with Jonas in the past year. He's not random. Toby and I dated for 2 years. Toby? Dad's eyebrows shot up. This is the Toby? The one who broke your heart and made you cry for 6 months? People change, Dad. Do they? Because Toby was charming, exciting, and unreliable. The exact reason you started dating Jonas. You wanted stability then. Maybe I was wrong about what I wanted. The words escaped, and silence swallowed the table. My parents exchanged worried glances. Elowen, Mum said gently, are you saying you want to call off the wedding? I don't know. Seeing Toby stirred feelings I thought were gone. Questions about whether I'm choosing the life I want or just the one I think I should. Dad's voice sharpened. You're 32. This isn't a movie. Real love takes work, not just sparks. I know, but Jonas and I have been figuring it out for 3 years. When do I commit or walk away? My phone buzzed. Toby's name flashed. They noticed my flinch. Is it him? Dad pressed. I didn't answer. His face reddened. Jonas is the best thing that's happened to you. Kind, steady, devoted. Throw that away for a fantasy, and you'll regret it forever. I'm not afraid of commitment, I said. I'm afraid of settling. Settling? Mom's hurt was palpable. Is that how you see Jonas? The truth clawed out. I love him, but I don't know if I'm in love with him. He deserves someone who chooses him completely, not as the safe choice. Silence fell again. Maya stared, stunned. I need to figure out who I am before I promise forever, I whispered. And you can't do that with the man who loves you, Dad asked quietly. Not if staying means never knowing if I settled out of fear. The server interrupted, and we ordered in strained quiet. I glanced at Toby's unread text, heart pounding with the weight of choices I could no longer avoid. Hope you're doing okay after yesterday. Would love to talk when you're ready. I stared at the message, torn between deleting it and responding immediately. Part of me wanted to call him right now, to hear his voice, and feel that electric connection again. But another part of me knew that would be crossing a line I couldn't uncross. Elowen, Dad said once the server had left, I want you to think very carefully about what you're considering. Passion fades. Excitement becomes routine. But love, real, committed love, that's what sustains a marriage through all the ordinary days and difficult years. But what if you never had the passion to begin with? I asked. What if you built a relationship on compatibility and convenience instead of genuine desire? Then you work to build that desire. You invest in your relationship. You don't go looking for it somewhere else. Even if somewhere else is where you found it before. Especially then, Mom said firmly, because if it didn't work out the first time, what makes you think it will work now? Maybe we're both different people now. Maybe we're ready for something we weren't ready for before. Or maybe you're romanticizing the past because you're scared of the future, Maya suggested. It's easier to fantasize about what might have been than to do the hard work of building what actually is. Her words stung because they felt uncomfortably close to the truth. Was I romanticizing Toby because he represented a path not taken? Was I looking for an excuse to avoid the commitment and compromise that real relationships required? Our food arrived, and we ate in relative silence, each lost in our own thoughts. I picked at my pasta, my appetite diminished by stress and confusion. I just want you to be happy, Mum said eventually. But I also want you to be realistic about what happiness looks like. It's not always fireworks and grand gestures. Sometimes it's just someone who brings you coffee in bed and listens to your bad day and chooses to love you even when you're difficult. Jonas does all those things, I admitted. Then what more do you want? I want to feel like I'm living my life, not just going through the motions. I want to feel excited about my future, not just resigned to it. And you think this Toby person can give you that? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I just need to figure out how to find excitement within the life I'm already building. Now that, Dad said, sounds like wisdom. As we finished our meal, I found myself thinking about Jonas, where he was, what he was thinking, whether he was having similar doubts about our relationship. Had he ever wondered if he was settling for me? Had he ever looked at other women and wondered what if? The thought of him questioning our relationship. The way I was questioning it filled me with unexpected panic. For all my confusion about Toby and passion and excitement, the idea of losing Jonas entirely terrified me. I should go, I said, suddenly needing to be alone with my thoughts. Elowen, Mum said as I gathered my purse, whatever you decide, make sure it's what you actually want, not what you think you should want or what seems most exciting in the moment. Because the choices you make now will affect the rest of your life. I know, Mom. And call Jonas. Whatever issues you two have, you won't solve them by avoiding each other. I hugged my family goodbye and walked to my car, feeling more confused than ever. My phone buzzed again, another text from Toby. I know this is complicated, but I meant what I said last night. I never stopped thinking about you, and seeing you again just confirmed that losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. If there's any chance you feel the same way, I think we owe it to ourselves to explore it. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the message and trying to decide how to respond. Part of me wanted to throw caution to the wind and see where things with Toby might lead, but another part of me knew that path was fraught with uncertainty and potential heartbreak. Finally, I typed back, I need time to think. Please don't contact me for a while. His response was immediate. I understand, but Elowen, don't let fear make this decision for you. You deserve to be with someone who makes you feel alive. As I drove home to my empty apartment, I wondered if anyone could make me feel truly alive, or if the restlessness I felt was something I needed to address within myself before I could be happy with anyone else. The question haunted me. Was I running towards something better, or just fleeing commitment? Until I answered honestly, I didn't deserve either man. Monday hit hard. Sleepless, I checked my phone obsessively for Jonas's message that never came. At work, every glance felt like judgment over Sarah's Instagram photo. Rebecca brought coffee, teasing about Toby. Marcus crowed about the likes, dismissing Jonas's absence as proof he didn't care. Their words stung. Jonas's reliability suddenly felt like a virtue I'd mocked. A text from Tom, Jonas's brother, pulled me outside. He was worried. Jonas was unraveling, questioning everything. "Do you want my brother, or just the idea of him?" Tom asked. When he pressed, if Jonas ended it, would I feel devastated or relieved? I couldn't answer. The silence said enough. Back inside, colleagues kept gossiping. I snapped, defending Jonas fiercely, kind, loyal, honest. The passion surprised me. I hadn't felt it in months. Jonas's voicemail came that afternoon, calm, formal, requesting dinner. Neutral ground, the Italian place from our second date. Symbolic, painful. At Marcello's, we avoided the truth until the wine ran out. Jonas spoke first. He loved me, always had, but love alone couldn't sustain marriage without desire. He asked when I'd last initiated anything, when I'd looked at him the way I'd looked at Toby in that photo. I had no defense. He'd watched me coast through wedding planning, going through motions. I admitted fear, of choosing wrong, of chasing fantasy. "Someone who makes me feel alive," I said. "Someone like Toby." Jonas agreed we should postpone the wedding indefinitely. No half measures. We both needed space to discover what we truly wanted. He hugged me goodbye in the parking lot, tears in his eyes, wishing me extraordinary. Toby texted immediately. "Seattle job offer, deadline tomorrow, decide tonight or he'd move on." 3 weeks later, at the investor dinner in the same hotel where it began, I tried to project confidence. Toby cancelled again, third time that week. Alone by the bar, I looked lost. Someone posted the photo. "When the grass isn't greener, #karma." Then Jonas's comment appeared. "Check your email." JV. The lawyer's message detailed dissolution, financial claims, unexplained charges, hotel dinners, texts proving months of emotional cheating, bank records, screenshots, irrefutable evidence. Served in the ballroom, envelope in hand, colleagues staring. Inside, Jonas's note. "I loved you enough to let you go. I hope it was worth it." I sat in my car, calling the firm. No more running. Jonas had documented everything with dignity, protecting himself while I'd spiraled. Toby's promises rang hollow. Jonas's steadiness had been love I'd mistaken for boredom. I'd chosen fantasy over partnership, impulse over commitment. Now I faced the wreckage alone. Jonas would heal, find someone who valued him. I would live with the truth. I'd thrown away the best thing in my life for nothing.